My name is Nicole Cannon, and I am a biomedical artist. I have two companies, Unchartered Tutoring and Bisci Creative.
What brought you to this job?
Bisci Creative takes complex scientific ideas from idea originators, usually scientists, doctors, engineers, and puts it in simplified concepts, usually involving a visual component. In that work, I worked in pharmaceuticals for a bit, in the informed consent process. And I discovered that a lot of people didn't have a high enough education to understand what they were agreeing to in clinical research. And it caused me a lot of heartbreak and concern. So in a break between jobs, I ended up tutoring a young man who was very gifted in science, but not so much in art. And his mom wanted him to round out his artistic vocabulary in the college application process to make him look real rounded, because he is real rounded. And in that process, I found out I was really good at teaching kids. And within 6 months, I was running programs using science and art together in all of the Title I schools in Manchester, New Hampshire. So now I have about 10 people working for me who do this, where we go into schools and we get to teach kids science using art. So the kids approach it and they're like, this isn't scary, this isn't intimidating, this is something I want to do more of.
How do you describe a typical day at work?
I do have a pretty typical day. So I also have disabilities, narcolepsy, along with a few physical challenges, being compromised, I'm missing organs, those kinds of things. So my advantage to being an entrepreneur is I get to set my schedule. And so I wake up when my body lets me wake up with a very specific sleep schedule. And I work out, usually for about an hour or two, weightlifting, cardio, those kinds of things. And then my day gets started a little bit later than most people's, usually around 10 to 11. And I begin writing lessons or correcting lessons, like a teacher went into school and taught it and was like, we need to specify we need acrylic paint instead of tempera paint. This didn't work in this exercise. And I edit those lessons. In the afternoons, I'm either teaching in a school or I'm broadcasting on Twitch, where a lot of people just join me to see what I'm making. And through the process, whether it's even watercolor or a new monitor stand, I'm talking about math, I'm talking about science, I'm talking about color theory, I'm talking about the species I'm illustrating, and those kinds of things, just trying to get more science out there into the world.
What skills or education brought you to this job?
I actually have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Biomedical Art from the Cleveland Institute of Art and Case Western Reserve University. So all the science classes are taught at Case Western, all the art classes are taught at CIA, and they blend beautifully. There are only about 10, roughly, undergraduate biomedical artists that graduate a year in North America. So we are a rare breed. And the way I came about discovering, because this is a degree you have to discover, was I just drew a lot of really detailed scenes all through high school. Like I'd put glass bottles in mirrored boxes and draw them with reasonable accuracy. So I found this private art teacher and she saw my drawings. She's like, these are detailed and accurate. How are you at dissecting frogs? I'm like, I'm great. I love dissecting frogs. She's like, I have the career for you. And she was right. I got to spend a lot of time in cadaver labs, actually handling organs, sitting in real life surgeries and drawing them from life. Surgeons love to have their surgeries drawn, so they usually let you in. So I just get to do the most fun things all day long.
What kind of support did you have along the way?
I come from a long line of engineers. My mother's an engineer, my grandfather's an engineer, my father's a physicist, my uncle is a physicist. Like, I come from a long line of really staunch scientists, math very specifically, and I'm kind of the black sheep because I was like, no, I'm going to be an artist. It gave them a lot of comfort to know I was going to be working in the sciences as an artist. They saw a lot more employment opportunities. I was very good in school, very, very good in school. I was homeschooled, actually, through elementary and parts of middle school. So I received a really strong science education from my mother, who was an engineer, highly qualified to teach me science. And then I continued on in public school, and I worked all through high school. I saved up money, and I got a scholarship that really let me do something unusual for someone who graduated in 2009, but I graduated without student debt.
Why did you choose Manchester?
My husband, who I met in high school in Northern Virginia, knew he was going to be an engineer, and he went to Ohio State because I was in Cleveland. And it happened that DECA recruited from that particular engineering group because several people were from that area. They'd go back home and recruit while they were there. He came for an internship, loved it, and they gave him a job offer. So we came here, and I just searched for work here, and the first job I was able to find was at a small radiopharmaceutical clinical research group.
What do you see for STEM opportunities in Manchester?
Mostly growth is what I'm seeing. More companies moving in here, more smaller startups, which gets me really excited. I like to see the small companies sprouting, from the larger companies around that gave people, the stability to save up money and then be able to take risks like that. I love seeing entrepreneurs, scientists or artists starting their own thing because I just love helping them. I love seeing them. I like giving them resources and just helping them get their new ideas out there. So I think new growth is kind of the vibe that I get from the Milliard. And I love that the new growth is paired with the old buildings, with the old architecture. I think it brings a very eclectic feel to the city that I think pays homage to where we come from and kind of points a compass in the direction that we're going. And I think that is in science, particularly the biomedical kind of engineering area. So one of the things that makes Manchester like the perfect place for STEM to really grow, STEM and STEAM, I'll say, is its closeness to play. Creatives need to play in order to develop good ideas. And being an hour from the beach, an hour from Boston, an hour from the mountains, there's all this play around. And those break moments that lead to creative ideas, right? Studies have shown that if you're working, 12 hours a day, you're not gonna have the same creativity that you would if you were having breaks and interacting with people from other companies, other walks of life. But I think there is something that's holding New Hampshire and Manchester in particular back a little bit, and that is around the inclusivity for BIPOC and for LGBTQ people. I think there's still systemic type challenges to growth where we can get ideas outside of what our cookie cutter is. And if we can pull in from historically Black colleges and recruit more people with different ideas, different walks of life, I think Manchester will become significantly stronger and create more opportunity for more science ideas to grow.